Hey, what's up? This is Nick from Mixdown Magazine, here with Austin from Turnover. We're here to talk about some gear. I want to talk about his guitar today.
I am by no means a gear aficionado, so some of my answers might let you down here. But this is pretty new to me. Well, I say pretty new. It's probably like 6 to 8 months old. Before this, I played the J Mascis like Squire Jazzmaster, basically just because I was pretty broke and I'd played every type of Fender guitar except for a Jazzmaster, and I played that one and really liked how it felt, and so I was using that for like the beginning of the peripheral vision cycle and most of the peripheral vision cycle. And then when we started writing Good Nature, I was just playing a lot more kind of like chordy, like less riffy, hot kind of stuff, and I was listening to more like jazz and like funk and pop stuff that had kind of a thinner sound, you know, like disco records like Earth, Wind & Fire and stuff. And I had an American Standard a long time ago, but it's when I was playing through like an 800 and like, you know, very different heavy, you know, rock and stuff. And so I just wanted to get a new guitar, and I had played, my favorite guitar that I ever played was like, when we were recording Magnolia, Will had like somebody had left behind just for safekeeping while they were on tour in Europe or something. It was like a '59 Strat, yeah. And I picked it up, and it was just like, I have like a very specific memory of it being like the best guitar I've ever played. And so ever since then, I've always been like, I really want to have like a Strat, you know, and I'll probably always keep the Mascis Jazzmaster, but I was like, I need to like get like a nice guitar, and so I got this and recorded Good Nature with it, and I've come to like love it a ton. I've gone back to playing the Jazzmaster a few times, and it's cool for what it is, but pretty quickly this has become definitely like my go-to preferred piece of my arsenal. But it's just it's a new, I think it's 2015 or 16 American Standard Stratocaster, and it does what it does really well. I haven't tried to do too many like crazy different things with it. Peripheral vision, I mean Good Nature. I'm sorry, it's pretty straightforward as far as like the guitar tone and stuff. It's basically on my end just through Roland JC120 jazz chorus, yeah. And I love that amp. So this combined with that just gave me a sound that I really liked for what I was trying to do, reminiscent of the things that I was trying to kind of channel on it, and it did it really well. So I got nothing but good things to say about Fender and this guitar especially. I think that one of the things that I like the most about it is I pretty much stay on the neck pickup the whole time.
That really buttery sound.
Yeah, it's really smooth and really fat and nice, but like you can do, like it's got like five, you know, the 3 different pickups, 5 neck positions, like 5 pickup positions, and they all sound like very different and pretty cool. So I think that like it can do a few things really, really well, you know, like I mean, you hear like Jimi Hendrix like wailing on a Strat, and then, you know, you listen to Earth, Wind & Fire, or you listen to like, you know, any other player, John Mayer playing a Strat.
John Mayer loves that 4th position where like it's the super poppy kind of sound.
Yeah. And they, you know, it does like the surf sound super well, you know, like it does a ton of stuff. Like in the studio, I'd like kind of like be like, oh, for this, like I'd kind of like see if Will like wouldn't notice and switch it to the middle position and play a little riff, and he would be like, not for this part, you know. But it does it does a lot of stuff really well. I'm definitely excited to. I got it like right before we went into this. It's funny because like. I got the JC120 literally like a couple of days before we recorded Peripheral Vision, so like I didn't really know how to use it yet. And then I got this guitar like a few days before we recorded Good Nature, so I didn't really know how to use it yet. So maybe by next time we record a record, I'll be like, now I know how to really pump it out.
Tone master. Who are like your formative influences as far as picking up guitar? Like what made you pick up guitar?
I would have to say Blink-182. They were like, I remember like specifically being in like 1st grade on the way to school and hearing all the small things, and like that being the first time I was, you know, before that I like liked music, and I'd be like, oh, I love rock and roll, because I like, you know, could feel the energy of it, and but that was the first time that I listened to a band, and I feel like it evoked that like passion that people who love music feel. versus just your passive music listeners. Like, oh yeah, I like music, you know. And they were like what awoke it for me, and I was like borderline obsessive with them from the time I was, you know, 7 till time I was 17, you know. And so I like loved that. I always like, you know, he had a Strat for a while, but I can't say that like I wanted a Strat when I was young and was like playing in bands like that, but then like I always thought it was really cool when he got the like hollow body guitar, and the like second electric guitar I ever had was a hollow body that like looked kind of similar to that. It wasn't a 335, but it was like an Ibanez that like looked kind of like it. To be honest, I don't think that any of the like guitar players that I would say like, it's hard for me, like for most of my life I like really liked like punk music and stuff, so like there was never like I was like, yeah, like I'm a huge guitar head, you know what I mean? Like I never really knew anything, you know. Like I feel like people who grow up listening to classic rock and like listening to great players, they're like, oh, I like Strats because like Jimi Hendrix plays a Strat and it sounds so good, or you know, like Stevie Ray Vaughan plays a Strat and it sounds so good, or you know, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Yeah, I just never really knew too much, you know. And then when I started getting into like underground music, and I would started noticing things from like my peers more than like big artists, you know. So like, you know, like I would like go see a band and I like saw Title Fight and I like loved how Jamie's guitar tone sounded. I was like, oh, that's a JCM 800, that's sick, you know. So like we would like use a JCM 800 and it sounded really cool. But I really just like for a long time would just kind of like mess around with everything, and like I had an American Standard at one point and I traded it to a friend I was on tour with for like a parts caster and like a blacktop Jaguar. And like same thing with heads. Like people would be like, oh yeah, you should like get a Sobtech MiG 60, and I'd be like, okay, sure. So I would just get a Sobtech MiG 60, you know. And then like, so it's always kind of been that way, and I think that's kind of it makes sense based on kind of like what the band and myself really for a while, like Magnolia period of turnover, like I was kind of unsure of what I wanted to do as a musical artist, and I think that it's started to dial in more now to where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like kind of what I want it to sound like. But you know, I think that like it's always been a case of, it's like, you know, a really great player can make a first act sound good. Little things like I think make more of a difference in the amp, like the gauge of the pick that you use. Like people always make fun of me because I use these like really tiny picks, like the 0.6
no way.
little thin guys. And I actually like even like to use the even thinner ones, the white ones that are like 0.58 or something.
Like a feather.
Yeah, they're hella thin, but I just like barely brushing the string, you know. But then, you know, like other players, like they play really heavy ones, and I think like certain things like that and like the gauge string you use, or like those things can make every bit of difference. So yeah, I mean, I definitely like the jazz chorus. I love it, but like I also like love the twin reverb. You know, I think like there's been times where I played one of those and I'd be like, is this better than my amp? You know, and it's just different, good for different things. But I definitely love this guitar. I probably won't get rid of it anytime soon. I definitely want to expand the repertoire a little bit. I have always really, really wanted a hollow body or a semi-hollow body, especially now that I'm getting into like more jazz stuff. Sure. So that'll probably be my next expansion into it. I was talking to Clayton from Touche Amore actually the other day about Fender guitars, and I've played, I think, like every kind of Fender guitar at this point, but the Jaguar that I had was like not like a traditional Jaguar. It was like the blacktop one that has humbuckers in it instead of the singles. So I really want to mess around with one of those again now that I'm kind of into different music.
With the SoBa pickups, like the P90s kind of thing?
Yeah, I really, like I said, I don't really know too much about them, but he was telling me like Jaguars originally were like the surf guitar. Yeah, so I just want to like kind of mess around with those a little bit because, you know, I think that'd be pretty cool.
No.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.